Today everyone, we are back and we are talking about my palette collection again, but this time it's not all good. Today we are talking about my least favorite shades in my eyeshadow palettes. I am doing this video because on my last video where I was talking my favorite shade in each of my eyeshadow palettes, quite a few of you actually requested me going through and talking about my least favorite shade. So that's what I'm doing today for you. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bettina and I am the makeup enthusiast, and this is your go-to channel for all things Aussie beauty. If you're new around here, make sure you click the subscribe button down below so you can keep up to date on all my Aussie beauty reviews. I know you all requested it. You want to know what my least favorite shade in each of my palettes are, so let's jump on in and get started. So the first palette I have here is my ABH Subculture palette, and I know for a lot of people the whole entire palette is their least favorite shade. I actually I like a lot of these colors, and I know they are quite hard to work with. My least favorite shade in this palette is this one up in the corner here, Cube, and that is because it has sealed over. Next one is the Modern Renaissance palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I'm gonna go with my least favorite shade in this one being this Cypress Umber, mainly because I find sometimes when I try and use this one it can look a little bit patchy, it can skip a little bit, and it can turn your eye look very muddy very quickly if you are not careful with it. So that's my least favorite shade out of this palette. Next, moving on to my Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. My least favorite shade out of this palette is this pinky color here in the middle. I just feel like it doesn't really go with the palette all that well. It doesn't really show up all that much on my skin. And when I'm using that color with all the rest in this palette, just doesn't seem to go very well on the eye for me. So that's why that one there is my least favorite color. Back to an Anastasia Beverly Hills, I have the Prism palette here, and this is like a fairly high favorite for me from the Anastasia Beverly Hills range. So this is what it looks like on the inside. I'm gonna say my least favorite one out of this palette is this black one up in the corner here, and it is Obsidian. It's probably going to be a growing trend out of my least favorite shades that 9 times out of 10 it'll probably be the black in the palette. I don't tend to use black all that much, and I just don't like how palettes include so many blacks because everybody's got a black in their collection, so there's no need to waste a color spot in a palette with a black because everybody's already got one. Moving on to my BareMinerals, this is the Wish palette, I believe. This is a very simple everyday palette. The colors in here are quite plain. I do really like the shimmer shades out of this palette, so that's why I'm picking Boardroom up here in the corner as my least favorite shade. It just doesn't apply all that smoothly. It can be a bit patchy and it can skip a bit while you're blending it out. But this palette in general, if you are looking for an all natural, like neutral palette, it is a good one, and I do really like the BareMinerals formula, so the shimmers in this palette are really nice and smooth. Then we have the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette. This is quite a recent addition to my collection, if I can get it out of the box. I'm gonna have to say, very boring of me, but once again, my least favorite palette color out of this palette is this noir color. I like using this palette as like an everyday work palette, and I just can't wear black eyeshadow to work. It's an unnecessary color in my opinion in this palette. I feel like they could have added another something. Moving away from Anastasia onto a couple of different brands. Firstly, we have my Makeup Geek Vegas Lights palette. My least favorite color out of here is this Butter Bing color. It just, I don't know, I'm not one for like darker shimmery colors, and it just doesn't really have all that much of a payoff when you use it. It's like a matte brown with a gold sparkle in it, but it just doesn't pay off or show up very well on the eyes. Then we have my Urban Decay Kristen Leanne palette. I absolutely love this palette. It's such a good one. I'm a big fan of all the colors in this palette, so if I had to choose, it would have to be the black, the 13th floor. But in saying that, I think this is one palette that the black does work well with. Black is always a good color that you can pair with a pop color, so you can pretty much pair this black with every single color in this palette and have it work well. Sometimes it can be hard if you are not au fait with like color theory, learning how to match a bright with a bright. So if you want to like touch or start dabbling or playing with bright colors, you can always pair like a pink and pop some of the black on the outer corner, or the purple and pop some black on the outer corner, just to add a bit of definition and difference on the eye. But if I had to choose black, the black would be my least favorite because I love all the other colors so much. Then we have my Colourpop Femme Rosa Carucci and Colourpop She Shadow palette. This is like their pinky rosy palette. I think I'm gonna have to go with this color here as my least favorite color, and I think that one is called Damsel. I don't know, I just love all the other colors. I love the shimmers in here. They're really pretty. The red is always really nice to pair with any of the other colors. So this one here, just by process of elimination, it's the least favorite one. These two on the end here I find are quite nice transition shades pairing with the shimmers. So that's why this one lucks out and gets the least favorite vote. Then we have my Natasha Denona Star palette. And I think before even opening this up, I know which one is my least favorite. It has to be this one up here called Galaxia. It's just hard to work with. It's a really pretty shade, but it's just hard to work with. It doesn't pick up very well on a brush and apply very well. It falls out quite a lot. It's quite chunky. This one, as soon as you dip your eyeshadow brush in there, it just seems to kick up a lot and it flakes a lot. It's quite chunky and, like I said, fallout central when I apply this to my eyes. So this is my Nubian #1 palette. My least favorite color out of this palette is this like shimmery dark brown here. I just don't really have a use for it. I don't like putting darker colors like this over the lid. Then my Juvia's Place Nubian #2 palette. So once again, we have a beautiful array of colors in here. My least favorite color out of the Nubian 2 is this color Layla here. It's just, once again, a shimmery dark color, which I tend not to use. I feel like if this was a matte for me, I would use it a lot. But moving on to my Huda Beauty Desert Dust palette, and if you saw my favorite shade in each palette, you probably know which one I'm going to say is my least favorite. It is unfortunately Amethyst, and that is because I feel like my Amethyst has sealed over. I will also do like a honorable, or I should say dishonorable mention for this Cosmo color down here. It's just difficult to work with. It's really chunky and it doesn't translate well on the eyes. Then we have my colored Raine Queen of Hearts palette. I haven't really had the pleasure of playing with this palette all that much, so just based off look, I'm gonna go with Dethrone. It's my least favorite color because, like I said before, it's just one of those darker shimmery colors that I wouldn't tend to use all that much on my eyes. I really need to play with this palette more. It's just gorgeous to look at, isn't it? Then we have my Lorac Mega Pro 1 palette. I'm gonna go with Indigo is my least favorite color. It looks really nice in the pan, but when you put it on the eyes, it just doesn't translate as nicely as you think it would. Then I have my Viseart Grande Pro 1 palette. This palette I think is probably one of my most expensive disappointments. Probably the bluer one because it tends to go quite grey and muddy on the eyes. Then I have the My Little Pony Colourpop collaboration palette. I think my least favorite one, once again, is going to be this like shimmery dark purple here. I just don't use it all that much. Then I have my Colourpop Yes Please palette. I am leaning towards this yellow just because it doesn't really show up on my eyes all that great. If I do place it in the wrong area, I can look a little bit sick because I'm so pale. 2 more palettes to go, everyone. My second last palette is the Juvia's Place Masquerade mini palette. This palette's so pretty. So this one has a few colors that look quite similar to itself. My least favorite color in here is this Caro. In the pan, it is like a matte, like reddy brown with a gold shimmer in it. As soon as you try and swatch this or place it on the eye, the shimmer just vanishes. The lucky last palette is the Huda Beauty Rose Gold Textured Shadow Palette. There are a lot of colors in this palette that I don't like. I'm just gonna start listing them off. Dubai, Rose Gold, Trust Fund, Blessed, hashtag Blessed, and Black Truffle. The one problem with this palette is the textured formula. So this chunkier Rose Gold Trust Fund and hashtag Blessed Formula, it doesn't like stick to your eyes. It's too much work to work with. You either have to use your finger or like one of those sponge tip applicators. It's just too hard to work with. You always have to kind of do your eyeshadows first in case you get fallout with these ones, and then do a lot of cleanup. I'm gonna go with Trust Fund as my least favorite because I prefer the color of the rose gold over the Trust Fund. Trust Fund is my least favorite out of this palette. So there we have it, everyone. I have gone through all these eyeshadow palettes and I have let you know what is my least favorite shade out of each of them. Let me know down in the comments box if you have any of these eyeshadow palettes and what your least favorite shade out of each of them are. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you liked this kind of video. Also click the subscribe button down below so you can keep up to date on all my Aussie beauty reviews coming your way. I upload videos every Monday and Friday. That's it for this video, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with me today and talking about bad eyeshadows, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.